Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like Yadi going from first to third, is unlikely to be successful. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
I definitely thought you were going to dig at the basketball team or business, so I think that was refreshing.
You gotta, mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And this week, among many things, we are going to be talking about the red-hot St. Louis Cardinals, Oli Marmol, the red-hot Oli Marmol, and some news and notes from around the league. If you have an idea for the opening joke, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Well, Ben, here we are again. Another week down. Cardinals looking better than ever. How you feeling over there? You've got your Colorado Rockies hat on, so I can tell you're really engaged. you're loving what you're seeing on the field right now from the birds on the bat.
El Hurris Montero is getting sort of hot, okay? Rockies fans have reasons to pay attention right now.
I saw that centerpiece of the Nolan Arenado trade.
I think Bud Black was giving an interview a couple of days ago in the dugout. He was just kind of talking about the team and CJ Cron, and he looked like he was about to cry. And I think that is how you define that. That is a perfect way to encapsulate how the Rockies season has gone.
Well, it's good that you've chosen to, represent them with your hat.
It's a good hat. It's purple. Okay.
That's nice. I do like purple.
No, but to talk about what we're here to talk about, I think the first thing that we need to talk about before we talk about the team at large is Albert.
Yeah.
I mean,
you got it.
I don't know what to add to the conversation other than
say, what more do we say than, oh my God,
he's hitting 700. Can we
incredible.
say that?
We can say that.
Do you feel comfortable in that prediction at this point in the season?
We can say that this is the best 10-game stretch of his entire career, which is completely bonkers. I mean, what a turnaround. I think we have to be fair to the story and to be fair to like what he's doing. I think it's helpful to remember that basically through June, it really was looking like, oh, this was a legacy signing. It's fun to see Albert. It's fun to have him out there.
It's like seeing Bob Dylan on tour now.
Yeah, right. And, we're doing all the ceremonies and he's having a great time. We had a whole episode about the currency that is old man smiles. And, it was a lot of fun, but he wasn't necessarily contributing on the field, which was kind of fine. Also, that was really what was expected. We had done we, like a lot of people, had posted the numbers about what he had done against left-handers in the last few years, and we were hoping we'd get something like that. But we hadn't really, he'd been doing okay against left-handers and horrible against right-handers. And now, I don't know what, as he sees the sunset, as his career winds down, he's found this, this final gear that he's put it all out there, and what we're seeing is incredible.
Yeah, just really quick, I want to hit his kind of rolling month OPS, the on base plus slugging percentage. First month of the season, 833. Then he dipped down to 661. Then dipped all the way down to 425, where he did not hit a home run that month, the month of June. That was a bad month for him. Then July turns around, 944, and currently we're sitting here in August talking about him right now, and his OPS is 1536. Which is, they throw around the video game numbers on the broadcast all the time. And as somebody who plays video games, those are not video game numbers because that's impossible. Unless you have it on like rookie mode on MLB The Show, you're not hitting an OPS of 1536.
Nerd.
Please check out Nate's video game podcast.
It's called The Short Game. It focuses on little indie video games. Check it out. Yeah. Not nerd shit like MLB The Show.
But yeah, I think like his month of, or his 2 months. I mean, really, it's been 3 months of productive Albert and 1 month of him seemingly done with baseball. and then another month of him not being that great at all. But really, 3 of the 5 months of the season, he has been an above average hitter. And now he has gone full Super Saiyan, flying through the sky, air punch, superhero mode. I don't
Yeah.
know Dragon Ball Z, based on, I'm sure you can tell by that
I think you
reference.
nailed it. Super
Yeah.
punch mode. Yeah.
Really getting the nerds on this episode
Yeah.
already. But yeah, like I said at the top, like I don't really know if there's much else to add. He's been absolutely unbelievable. I think maybe the only thing that I am it's hard to be surprised by Albert Pujols because he is who he is, but it's the miles per hour, the exit velo that's coming off of his hits. He had that 4-hit game that he had a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
It was like 104 off the bat, 109 off the bat, 105 off the bat, just balls screaming. And now he's unfortunately at the place with his lower half where it's pretty much a home run or a single.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, he's blasting Kamehamehas left and right now.
Hey, that's a Dragon Ball Z reference, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think what I was expecting is one half of the game we're getting out of him right now, which is that home run power. The thing that he has basically maintained all throughout his career is the ability to hit dingers. But yeah, these screaming line drives that we as OG Pujols fans of first run St. Louis Cardinal fans, that's what we were used to, but we haven't really seen that from him in a long time. And that is what sticks out to me even more about all of this, is that he's hitting for such a high average, which just he has not done for a long time. I've seen people joking online that basically Pujols is good every other decade, which, what a legend to be even able to have stats from now essentially 3 different decades. But it is wild. And then I also laugh at, there's been the conspiracy theories of him being, much older than he actually is too. So I'm like, somewhere out there's someone that still believes that and thinks that like 47-year-old Pujols or whatever is doing this. It's really incredible. And then you line it up with, the MVP caliber seasons that Arenado and Goldschmidt are having, a little bit of a resurgent Tyler O'Neill. Like the offense is on another level right now, and I just can't believe that Pujols is really at the center of that. It definitely feels like we've turned back the clock 18 years.
Yeah, I mean, we're like, obviously his at bats have been limited and his use case is limited and blah, blah, blah. And he kind of got that honorary sort of old man all-star nod. But we're getting to the point now when if you look at this baseball reference page in 10 years or something like that and you forget the context, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, of course Albert Pujols was a all-star in his final year. He has a over 800 OPS, a bunch of dingers in limited time.
Yeah.
Of course, like that was deserved. Good for him.
Yeah. Well, and now it's re-sparked a whole thing that I think we all thought already was unlikely to start the season. And then after his May and June, it seemed a foregone conclusion that it wasn't even going to be a discussion. But here we are now. Pujols has 700 in sight. It's
Yes.
still going to require a lot of things to come together perfectly. The Cardinals have been playing against a lot of lefties recently, a lot of lefties on bad teams. So, I don't know how many more left-handed pitchers they're going to have in front of them. So there's only so many at bats left for him. But just the fact that this chase has become a reality is a ton of fun.
Yeah, and I think, we'll couch this for now, but I think the way in which Oli Marmol has decided to deploy Albert Pujols makes it more likely, and especially if he stays healthy and keeps hitting like this, even like I feel even better about it. But we can dive into that later.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the recent success of the Cardinals, put it into some numbers. I mean, I think anybody listening to this podcast is obviously a pretty big Cardinal fan, so none of this will be news to you, but I still think it's pretty interesting to see some of these broken down. So, Ben, you've got a little list of nice stats about the Cardinals right now.
Yeah. So I just thought, like, obviously the team is playing well, and I like to choose arbitrary dates and just kind of throw out some numbers. So I did choose an arbitrary date, and that's kind of when this hot streak began. That we're watching the Cardinals. So over the last 25 games, going back to July 27th, This is including the games that have happened with, or a couple of the games that have happened with the Cubs this week. The Cardinals are leading the league in HRs, or homers. Is probably I'm reading my copy rather than just
Leading
speaking
the
like a
league
human.
in HR departments.
Yeah, but leading the league in homers is it's only for over the 25 games, but they're still fairly high up there on the leaderboard. I thought that was shocking. It feels like they're hitting a lot of bombs, and we just talked about Albert and Goldie and Arenado are both having insane years. But that's just something we've been Cardinals fans forever, and that never is an aspect of the team. So I think that's been a lot of fun. They're also second in runs over that same time, first in average, and as a team, they lead the league in with 148 WRC plus. So it is not a stretch to say that over the arbitrary time period that I decided to cherry pick there, the Cardinals have had the best offense in baseball, and they are either first or second with it's the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the team that's kind of they've
Yeah.
been back and forth during this
Well,
time
ever
period.
since the acquisition of Joey Gallo, which has, of course, now
Of
he's awesome
course,
again.
yes.
But
Well, I think there's a conspiracy theory out there about the Yankees and their beard restrictions. You see Joey Gallo go to the Dodgers and he sets the world on fire. You see Montgomery grow a beard being on the Cardinals and he sets the world on fire. I think the Yankees need to seriously look at this beard rule.
I mean, I have had a bigger beard at times in my life, and every time I trim it down, yeah, I mean, it's a total lack of balance. I can
Yeah.
barely walk straight for months, until so these guys being able to return to the equilibrium of having a beard on their face clearly. I think it's market inefficiency that Billy Bean's going to exploit sometime soon. What stands out to me on that list, Ben, is that they are leading the league in both home runs and average. In today's game, that's incredibly uncommon for your power hitters also to be your high average guys. And I mean, it all comes down to Pujols, Arenado, and Goldschmidt, who are now all hit. Arenado's almost or is at or right around 300 for the season, which is incredible. Goldie's, still leading the league in batting average, and then Pujols is hitting 700 or whatever. That's that being able to hit for power and average is so rare, and the Cardinals right now have three guys that are doing it, which is crazy. A note too on just a little more talk about how good Pujols was. What Goldie is doing this season is pretty much close to maybe a little bit better, but pretty much what Pujols did for 10 years straight on
Yeah.
the Cardinals, So just a little reminder of what he was, like we're losing our mind about Goldschmidt's season. We used to get this every year over and over and over from Pujols.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's watching Goldschmidt in this year. It does feel like he's just been locked in since the start. And yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Like Pujols, that was just how Pujols was. And he would have down, there would be little streaks of poor performance.
Yeah.
And it really and I'm sure if I dug into the numbers, this isn't entirely true. This is probably more anecdotal than everything, but it truly feels like Goldie hasn't had a bad
He
night in
hasn't.
5 months or something like that. It's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think he went he had a 0 for 7 streak a couple weeks ago, and it's like, oh no, what's going on with Goldie? He's falling apart. But yeah, there's probably been worse points in the season, but it certainly doesn't feel like it as he continues to chase down a possible triple crown season, which is just wild. So
I think he should go for it. I think he should go for the Triple
you
Crown.
think you should?
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about like making up my mind on that point, but now that you really put me to it, I'll go on the record and say I also think that Paul Goldschmidt should try to win the Triple Crown.
Hey man, when the chips are down,
Yeah.
when your
Yeah.
backup's against the wall, when
Yep.
when the cards are on the table,
out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Another I thought this was kind of another fun number, just talking about the Cardinals' success. And this is Cardinals in 2022. This isn't me cherry picking arbitrary dates. They have a run differential of 121 right now, which I think last year they ended, it was around like 31, 32, 33, somewhere in that range. So just to kind of put in perspective how much more productive and efficient and better this Cardinals team is, like it is not even close to what the Cardinals were experiencing last year. And to try to add more context around like what 121 run differential looks like, that they're basically essentially tied with the Mets and Braves, who I would say are some of the better teams in the National League. Obviously, outside of the Dodgers run differential is 269. They are on track to potentially set a run differential record this year. So we'll see if that happens or not.
Stupid, sexy Dodgers.
Stupid, sexy Dodgers. They're so good. And like Max Muncy and Will Smith are starting to hit. Cody Bellinger is starting to be a little bit better. There are some things like, anyways, let's keep talking about the Cardinals. What I found interesting about that run differential. So they're at 121, and the teams behind them are the Blue Jays and the Phillies, and they're in the 60s. So it's kind of like the Cardinals have kind of elevated themselves this year to being in. They're probably second tier, right below. I don't know, who would you say? It's the Dodgers. I mean, the Yankees have fallen off. You can't say that
Yeah,
they're in that tier anymore.
maybe
Is there?
the Astros.
Yeah, are the Astros a super team? I guess the Astros are the closest thing we got to a super team other than the
The,
Dodgers.
yeah,
And that's just how good the Dodgers are. They're just better than everybody, and it's not even close.
yeah.
But yeah,
Um, yeah, I think that highlights what you're trying to call it here is that uh here we are at the near end of August, and while there's obviously been rough patches this season, much like last year, this sort of middle end of season streak has now put the Cardinals in a pretty dominant spot within the rest of the league, minus the Dodgers. Baseball Reference now has them at a 99.5% odds to make the playoffs.
yeah. I
So,
mean, we were kind of talking about this, like, I think especially is nice when the Cardinals are playing the lowly Cubs and the Brewers are fighting it out with LA. Like, Cardinals are in a really good spot. The schedule's lining up. The way the offense is performing is lining up, not to mention the acquisitions from the trade deadline.
yeah,
Like, the Cardinals are going to have, like, it is theirs to lose, as they say. They're in a
yeah.
very commanding position for the next 40 games.
I
To
mean,
the
as it turns
point,
out, sorry, go on.
oh, I was just going to say, to the point where I expect them, if they keep playing good baseball, to be able to kind of get some rest at the end of the season, set up their rotation, maybe get Jack Flaherty a couple of starts that are lower leverage and feel that out. Like, they should be able to set themselves up to be successful, unless the Brewers, hair lights on fire all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's the strength of schedule thing. Like the Cardinals have shown this year that they can and will beat bad teams pretty relentlessly. And since that is the majority of the remainder of the schedule, like it's hard to imagine short some significant injuries to some significant pieces. Knock on wood a billion times. They should be able to run this lead they have in the division just the rest of the way. Brewers have played a little bit better since we were speaking about them last week, but they are far back enough now. And again, the strength of schedule stuff just makes you think like it's going to be really, really difficult for them to overtake it. And even still, all that aside, like because of the new playoff format and the way these other teams are playing, there's a significant likelihood that the Cardinals' playoff approach or like who they play and or maybe where they play would change, but who they play or what am I trying to say? Right now, even if they don't win the division, they're probably making the playoffs.
Right.
And because they won't be one of the top two teams, they won't have a bye. And since it doesn't really matter who you play in the playoffs, every team is going to be good. Like there's not a huge change, even if somehow the Brewers completely come back from nowhere and somehow overtake the Cardinals. It's probably not going to change the playoff picture that much anyway.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks when you think about the new playoff system. Like, I hate that there's probably not going to be a big difference between winning the division and
Yeah.
not winning the division. But
Well,
it is
I'd
what
say
it is.
that's the entire problem that we have
Yeah,
with it, is it
yeah.
devalues the regular season, which is the entire thing that's
Point.
cool about
Yeah.
baseball and why you play 162. But
Another quick,
Rob Manfred hates baseball. Blah blah
yeah.
blah blah blah.
Quick note too on the run differential. If you're familiar with Pythagorean
Are you talking
record,
Pythag?
oh, I'm talking that Pythag record, which
People love Pythag.
uh, I can't get enough of it. Which tries to give you the expected outcome of the run differential that you have would actually be. 1 run games, things games that go into extra innings. Those are pretty variant heavy. And so Pythag tries to tell you like what is the true record that your team should have if everything was equal. If you won as many 1 run games as you lost, et cetera, et cetera. It tries to remove luck from
Hey, if
run.
luck wasn't involved, I'd win all the time.
Yeah. But we all know luck is a skill, and the outcome, I still this to say the Cardinals Pythag is actually 74-49. So they've gotten unlucky a little bit in some of their outcomes too. So this team is even better than maybe the record dictates right now.
Yeah.
Not by a ton, but I still, I think it's a good indicator of true skill. So lots of things clicking right now. I think we want to talk about a couple individuals before we move on to some other topics. Let me just reiterate to everybody, if you're new to this show, if you've just started listening in the last month or so, we have always supported Corey Dickerson. He was a good signing on day one,
Yep.
and we wish that he would have gotten more playing time early in the season.
Yeah. Have you? So I'm gonna sandwich this. Corey Dickerson since the All-Star break is hitting 390 with a 585 slugging percentage. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've been paying attention to his interviews with Jimmy the Cat or anything like that, but he just keeps talking about how he's ignoring the haters. He's not listening to things that he's seeing. He's just going out there and play his game. And I know for a fact that Corey Dickerson does not know who we are, but it feels a little directed. I know we were hard on him. What is he
Everyone
doing here?
was.
Everyone. Yeah. But then he stopped listening to bloggers and podcasters and Twitterers, and he figured out hitting. So maybe we should all be nicer. I don't know what that is, but I just think that's funny. He has said it maybe 15 times over the past month or so.
Yeah, I saw he definitely has a little bit of a downtrodden,
Yes.
attitude, which I think is fair. The interview I think it was from last night's game or the game before, he was saying, like, I might not like the role, I might not like the situation, but I'm going to do the best I can with every at bat that I'm given. It's like,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, these are real people trying to not lose their job on a day in and day out basis. So, but fortunately, we were only ever supportive of Corey Dickerson, so there's no way he was talking about us.
And all this begs the question: should Corey be starting?
Well, the problem is, and it's not a real problem, but the problem is you can't get Newt Bar out of there. The Newt is loose,
You
and
can't.
O'Neill, who has the longer track record or the pedigree, has looked like he's returning to form. So when you got Carlson in center, where do you put Corey Dickerson other than playing some of the matchups, which we're going to talk about with Oli here shortly? But there's not a lot of at bats, especially when you got to get Pools in there every time too. It's a good problem to have, but it's these sort of reasons why the Cardinals are leading in the last month, as we were just talking, like every single offensive category.
Yeah, and you're kind of. I think it really comes down to who do you want those left-handed extra at bats, and do you want them to go to Nolan Gorman playing second base or DHing, or do you want it to go to Corey Dickerson? And yeah, it is a good problem to have. And I do think, I mean, these things always work themselves out, right? Somebody's going to start slumping or whatever might happen. Hopefully nobody gets hurt. But it'll figure itself out. But absolutely did not, even though we've always been behind him, did not expect myself to say numbers like 390 and 585 and all these crazy things that he's doing in limited playing time with Corey Dickerson.
Yeah, it's great. It's keeping Juan Yepez down in the minors too, which is, it is what it is. But and it's also put Alec Burleson, even further down on the list of potential major league at bats. But again, good problem to have.
Yeah, and I guess to go from one player that we have supported entirely
Never
throughout
not.
the entire year.
Yeah.
Andrew Knizner, since the All-Star break, has been an above average hitter. He has I think his OPS plus is it's 117 or something right now, so 17% above league average. The
He'll
defense
take.
has been fine, but
Yeah.
I feel like this has kind of happened really quietly and kind of under the radar. But he's hitting in the 280s over that time period. He's got a little bit of pop. He's walking a little bit. He's got not a ton of strikeouts. Absolutely didn't see this coming. It just what we had. I mean, I'd been begging for a real backup catcher all season.
Right.
And then you kind of take a step back and looking like, oh wait, maybe Kizzer is like his minor league profile. Maybe there is something in that bat. Maybe I should lighten up. Maybe I should
Yeah.
look in the mirror a little bit.
Well, you don't want to do that.
No, thank
But
you. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah. Remember how many mirrors you cracked last time you decided to look into a mirror?
And mirrors are so expensive.
Why are mirrors so expensive?
It's
I
unbelievable.
I feel like we figured that shit out a long time ago.
It's just glass.
It's shiny glass.
I got glass all over the place.
Anyway, we'll be at the Comedy Garage this weekend.
That is a bit from 15 years ago that is still not funny. All right.
But I honestly want to know why mirrors are so expensive. If you know why mirrors are so expensive, tweet us at Talk About Birds.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I mean, Knizner had a good profile in the minors, and it felt like he had lost it because he just sat on the bench for so long, and maybe he's recovered it a little bit, or it is a very small sample size for him. So maybe it's just he's getting some good breaks, but everything is going well right now for the Cardinals, and including that. So we'll take it.
The team is hot.
Yeah. And I guess keep it rolling. We have to talk about Jordan Montgomery, the single most impactful trade at the trade deadline right now. There were
easily, right?
It's been by far the most successful deadline trade across all of the trades. And then when you consider the cost, no disrespect to Harrison Bader, but when you consider the cost compared to guys like what Montas or Luis Castillo cost, it's the pendulum is way in the favor of the Jordan Montgomery trade, the Jordan Montgomery side of it. It's like, even if Bader comes back and is an all-star for the Yankees next year, it's like, it still feels like this was already worth it.
Well, we talked about at the time, you deal from a place of wealth to fix a place of need. That is how you make a good trade. And the Cardinals did that. And I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, but I think Yankees fans, every time Monty does something good, they are mad. I saw CC Sabathia after his complete game, Monty's complete game shutout. CC Sabathia said something like, "I see you, King. Go out there and kill it. We watched every game, and there was reports that the Yankees players were watching Monty start from their clubhouse. It was either before or after the Yankees game started, and they were like locked in." Cheering, they were really into it. Like, he was a popular guy on that team, so I think Brian Cashman is a very good GM. I think he's very smart. I think he gets a lot out of players who maybe were overlooked, at like Gio Urshela, and there are some really good trades he has in recent history. It really feels like he botched this one. I hope Bader is good for them too, but I mean, this has been incredible.
Yeah. Well, the Cardinals have mixed Montgomery's pitch selection a little bit as well, relying more on the sinker than he did with the Yankees, which plays to the strengths of the Cardinals. So you can't say for sure that what he's doing now with the Cardinals, which is also only 4 starts, but they've been 4 incredible starts. We can't say for sure he would have been doing this for the Yankees, because he's been good for the Yankees, but he's not been anywhere near what he's been for the Cardinals. And part of that is, I think, the park adjustment factors. Busch is a way better park to pitch in than the Little League stadium that is Yankee Stadium. And they, plussed up his sinker to because the Cardinals have the best infield defense maybe ever. The more of these freaking Arenado, he's like, "Oh, you want more barehanded insane plays? Sure, I got a couple for you.
Just one a week." So
a lot of things have come together for this, and not to say that we should expect like a significant regression, but like this probably won't keep up in this way. But like he was not this guy for the Yankees either. It's not like you would just pick up these starts and put them in Yankee Stadium.
No.
It's decisions that the Cardinals made and factors that the Cardinals have influenced. But I mean, it's
we
incredible.
we
Complete game
talked
shutout, one hit,
yeah
one
his
hit,
first
Maddox.
He did. And it was his first of his career.
Yeah.
And all I was trying to blabber in there while we were talking over each other was we also, I think another thing to recognize is that the NL Central is easier to pitch in full stop than the AL East. But yeah, no, that was incredible. I know he's going to get blown up at some point because all pitchers do. But here, let me just throw some more fun numbers at you around Monty's early goings. He's got 25 and 2/3 innings as a Cardinal. He has already put up one Fangraphs WAR, and it's like 1.5 on Baseball Reference. So choose whatever; it's still great. The stat ERA plus, which is it's kind of a rate stat, and a what do you call it? It is a ballpark adjusted and environment adjusted and year adjusted and all that good stuff. For reference, Edwin Diaz, who is having one of the better seasons that I can remember from a closer, his ERA plus is 270. Over those innings that Monty's pitched, his ERA plus is 1,097.
That sounds pretty good.
Over almost
Check,
800 more. Yes. I mean, like, what? I cannot believe that it was that high. I didn't know that it could be 4 digits. I didn't know that that was an option.
I think briefly Helsley's was also in that range. He had some insane ERA plus, but I mean, that's incredible. And 25 and 2/3 innings is not a ton from a starter's perspective, but for a reliever, how many innings does Edwin Diaz have? That's
I
probably,
think Edwin is in like the mid 40s.
Yeah. So pretty incredible, and it's been a lot of fun. And I guess the Cardinals should extend Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah, throw some cash at him. I mean, he's been great. Why not?
Yeah. Well, should we talk about the one thing that we that is maybe not as going as well as it was even just a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it's worth bringing up. And I guess the thing is that because of the trades that happened during the deadline, there's really no recourse. We're just stuck with Paul.
With Paul DeYoung. Yeah.
Paul DeYoung is the Cardinals starting shortstop. Tommy, I guess, could move over there if he really, really starts to falter. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but I guess, if you put Tommy maybe against tough right-handers, you put Tommy at short and put our good buddy Gormania at second.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably your ideal lineup right now. Tommy's such a good defender at short and second that's probably what I would argue for, although his bat's dead. Paulie's bat is dead. And I don't know if it's going to come back to life. And I don't know if it's an Oli Marmol thing. I don't know if it's a John Mozeliak thing, but he is the shortstop.
Yeah, I would guess that that's more a Mozeliak thing than a Marmol thing. And, having a middle infield of DeYoung and Edman is not the worst thing as long as they are hitting 7 and 8, 8 and 9, something like that. And you have guys like Nootbaar, O'Neill, Carlson, all stepping up to be those table setters for Nolan and Goldie, and I guess Pujols for as long as we can get this. That's part of the success right now is that it doesn't really matter that Edman has kind of cratered or that DeYoung has cratered when the other 6 guys in your lineup are all mashing out of their minds. But if anything starts to falter, having a bottom 3 in your lineup of Edman, DeYoung, and Yadi, who, just seems incapable of hitting for power at this point. You could see, especially in a short series, like a playoff series, it's a pretty rough bottom 3. You're not going to be generating a lot of runs from the bottom of your lineup there. But it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter if they're all giving you gold glove or near gold glove level defense and everyone else is doing well.
sure. But is the best move really to just sub him
Bank on it.
in
Yeah.
later in the game?
I think I would
Because
prefer the Edmund at short and Gorman
yeah,
at second. At
because
least you
I
have that
would
pop.
prefer, yeah, I'd prefer to take 2 or 3 at bats with Gorman, especially obviously against a right hander, and then swap them out later towards the
Yeah.
end of the game. Especially obviously if you have the lead, that's an even more opportune time to do that. But that makes all the sense in the world to me. And I think while it is a short sample size, we have 3-ish years of Paulie D doing this
Yeah.
thing. So my patience for this kind of play is pretty small at this point. Like once you stop hitting, and really it's once you start striking out like you've been striking out, I'm done.
It's the
Move on.
same. It's a regression to the exact same problem that we see over and over and over.
Yeah.
As we talked about with Terra, he has such a specific approach that if he's not locked in, it is just bad. There's not really a middle ground for him. And unfortunately he's back swung to the side of bad. But he was doing it not that long ago. Maybe he can figure it out again and swing back. But running out of time in this season.
Yeah. So in August, he has played 21 games and he has 27 strikeouts. So
Yeah, not great.
not great.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about Oli Marmol.
Yeah.
We got quite the show from him again. I really appreciate that. If Oli Marmol is going to get thrown out, he is going to get thrown out. He's getting his
Yes.
money's worth. He's been tossed 3 times this season, which I only think of him as a calm, kind of cool-headed or level-headed guy. But he clearly has a gear that he's willing to switch into,
Yeah.
and I love it. He got tossed for screaming about a horrible strike call
A
again,
horrible call.
3 inches inside, and he goes out and starts yelling, and then umpire clearly said something, and Marmol just lost it and went totally bonkers on the guy, and it was great. I loved it. In
Yeah.
the post game interview, I thought it was even funnier is we learned that what was it? CB Buckner,
Yeah.
questioned Marmol's time in the league, and so then
Woo!
he said, "So I questioned his,"
Yeah.
which you have to assume means that Buckner called him young, and then
Yeah.
Marmol called him really old or something
Yeah.
like that, which was hilarious. So I love it. And then you know what? To give CB Buckner credit, he was really good the rest of the game as far
Yeah.
as strike zone management goes. So it worked. But outside of that, outside of his fiery displays, I think speaking for myself, I think you feel the same way. Is that a lot of what we were hoping to get from Marmol this year, a more strategic approach, a more willingness to mix and match, and a recognition that maybe batting a failing Matt Carpenter as your cleanup hitter every day, avoiding those sorts of repeat mistakes of like the same problem over and over and over that we saw with Schultz and Matheny. And so far, I think we're getting as advertised. He makes mistakes,
Yeah.
everybody does, but for the most part, I have agreed with like 99% of his decision making. And then I realized the other day, and I'll give you a second to talk here in a
Yeah.
minute, but I realized that I had stopped watching a lot of the post game interviews when Schultz was manager, and I kind of just thought like, I'm just kind of I just spent a bunch of time watching the game, and I just don't. I'm ready to do something else. But I've been watching a lot more of them lately with Marmol, and I realized like, oh, it was just like Schultz were boring,
Yeah.
and he was ever unwilling to say anything that was like an interesting observation about the game, whereas Marmol gives you so much, and I've been
Yes.
enjoying watching him again. So, how are you feeling about Marmol?
Well, yeah, and I want to piggyback off what you're saying. I think it's Marmol actually explains his decisions. Here's what I was seeing here. Here's what we expect to happen. It worked. It didn't work. He'll just say that. What I
Yeah,
also like is that I think he kind of uses the media, and I'm sure he seems to be a very effective communicator to the media, and I have to imagine that extends to him communicating with the players. But I think he uses the media in an interesting way where he will say, I know Jake Woodford is better than this, or I know X can do this. We need to see him do this to be successful. And it's not blaming anybody. It's really just calling it like it is in
Yeah.
a way that I think I would respond to if I was somebody who was working for him. When you are clear and you set expectations and you try to empower those people that you're working with, or who are working for you, or however the relationship is, like treating people like adults rather than throwing out 75 different excuses or not answering it or getting fussy with the media. Like, I don't respect that from a viewer standpoint. The players have to see it's bullshit. Like, I really, I don't want to say it's no nonsense because I think that's played out, but the fact that he's just saying what we're all seeing and doing it in a way that is well communicated, I think is such a nice change of pace. We've had
Yeah.
TLR, who was horrible with the media, obviously a good manager back then, but horrible with the media. Mike Matheny, who struggled to put full thoughts together at sometimes, it felt like. And then Schilt, who I think is smart, he just wouldn't divulge any information, and he would
Well,
not
yeah,
cast blame on anyone, no matter what.
because there is this element of sticking up for your guys. Like I think that's a like trope that gets thrown around of like, the manager's got to go out there and stick up for his guys, and don't let anyone bash him. Like we keep that in the clubhouse. No,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
you can't say anything bad about my team, So, but that's like you said, it's not really how the world really works. And like we saw Marmol say after the Dakota Hudson start, he's like, yeah, we really wanted him to go a lot longer into the game, and he didn't, which is not great. And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, well, that makes sense. And it's not like Dakota Hudson is probably back there being like, oh man, like I thought I was going to be defended to the press,
Yeah.
or I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I think
Well,
it's just a mentality change. Sorry, go on.
I also, I think you're setting expectations for a championship. Like, whether, I don't know how close players pay attention to the kind of things that a manager says in a post game, but when you're talking like that, you're setting high expectations. I will say I would appreciate that from my boss. I
Yeah.
like being, I like that. Expect me to do good things, and when I'm not, redirect me. That, like, I'm just fully sold on that. I'm sure it's not for everybody, but Ben Samorka enjoys that, and so
And
pro
that's
Ali.
why you win the championships that you win. And, that's why,
See all this
you,
gold behind me, baby?
yeah,
Let's go.
not actually kind of like dark and blurry back there.
It is. There's a Mastodon poster and a St. Louis pennant.
Nice.
Let's go Mastodon. So more, I wanted to dive a little bit more into that. And I think, like, what I've kind of seen, and I was curious, so I did look up some numbers on this, but I've kind of seen Ali get more comfortable in the second half and kind of, I think, be him a little bit more managerially, and be a little more aggressive with platoons and be a little more aggressive with the way he's rolling out pitchers. I think he's handled Ryan Helsley really, really well. But anyways, so something that we kind of talked about before the season started when Ali got the job is the Cardinals' ability to take advantage of the platoon advantage, which means, lefty on righty pitchers, and vice versa. Last year, they were below league average. It was 44.7% of the time they had their players in an advantage point situation. This year, it is 52%. This is every at bat the Cardinals took last year to every at bat the Cardinals have taken this year. And while what is that? 8% isn't a huge number. When you take into account, we have stalwarts like Paul Goldschmidt, who is going to hit against anyone, Arenado, who is the same thing, Brendan Donovan, who has become a bit of a stalwart, and he will hit lefties and righties. You take into account some of the players that the Cardinals use, it's a pretty significant jump. And what I really think is, or what I've been really pleased with, is that Ali is choosing his spots, and he's been aggressive in pinch hitting Albert. He's been
Right.
aggressive in swapping out Gorman if the situation calls for it. Those are probably the two top tier names that I would call out. But
Yeah, we're
I don't know.
seeing
I
pinch
thought that
hits
was
in the
interesting.
we're seeing
Yeah.
pinch hits in the third inning now, fourth inning. I don't know if you're able to, but I'd be interested to see like those platoon advantage usages over like a month to month basis, because I agree with you. It feels like he's been doing it a lot more recently, and maybe that's just because everything's kind of clicking, and you have a better understanding of the skill sets of each person on your team. Whereas
Yeah.
the beginning of the season, you're still letting people develop and giving time for that. I don't know. It could be a mixture of both. But yeah, we're absolutely seeing it, and I like the mix up of the lineup against lefties and righties. It feels like there's a very methodical approach happening.
Yeah.
And of course, the manager always looks the best when the team is winning, and the
Yeah.
Cardinals are winning a ton right now. So like we have to recognize that, like, at the end of the day, the players are playing really well, and so it makes a manager look great.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
some of the things that we wanted to see from him, being direct and open with his communication, seemingly having a thoughtful game plan at every step of the way, all of that has been the case with him, and I've been pretty happy. And it's no surprise that he's seen as this, like, like he's 35 years old,
I think he's
and
36. Yeah.
yeah, it's wild. So it's nice though. I really liked Schilt, I really did, but I think that this is better. So
Yes.
that's good. Better is good.
Better is good. Smart.
All right, so we still have some more things to talk about, but before we move on to the next segment, I want to remind everybody that this show is supported on Patreon. If you enjoy the show, want to support us, want to see it continue to grow, consider throwing us a donation on patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Uh, Subscribers at any level gain access to our private Discord server. We call it the Bird Scored. We have a ton of great conversation in there. Ben just posted the photo of his new Bush 2 seats in the Discord, and
Heck
it's
yeah.
really nice to have a place where you can just talk to other Cardinal fans without all the noise of the other platforms that we use to talk to Cardinal fans. So again, that's patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. You also may consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate it. It helps us show up in search functions when people look for Cardinal podcasts, and just generally makes us feel good. So thank you for everyone who has done those things. Shout out to our patrons, and shout out to those who are considering joining. Ben, where can people find us online elsewhere?
Yeah, make sure to follow us on stupid old Twitter at Talk About Birds. But like Nate said, we're not very good at it. Just come on the Discord. It's nicer there. But make sure to follow us at the same time at Talk About Birds on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram, Talking About Birds. And of course, as always, you can email us questions, thoughts, musings to our Gmail account, talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. Usually, I like to pick on Nate in this section and say, why don't you email Nate about this and that? But I don't really have anything today. So I'm going to say, give Nate a break. Guys, can you just back off, Nate? He's trying. He's doing.
I'm dealing with a lot right now. Okay.
He's trying his hardest.
Thanks, Ben. I really need the reprieve from the just dozens of emails about my beef preferences or whatever you try to get people to
Beef
talk
preferences. No, it was definitely pizza last week, you dumbass.
It's pizza every week. Come on.
I know.
I made some pizza. I made
shocking.
Yeah, I know. Ooh, let me tell you about it. I had the leftovers for lunch today. I'm really figuring out my dough recipe. I think I got the salt just the way I like it. I'm still not great at the transition.
See what I have to deal with here every day. Oh God.
You started this.
I was going to share a pizza anecdote, but I just want to move on now.
You can't leave me hanging like that.
I have really quick. I have a text chain with my little brother and sister, and my little sister's going to Chicago this weekend for a bachelorette party. I said, ooh, you got to hit Pequod's,
Hell yeah.
which is some of my favorite pizza in the world. And then we had a lengthy discussion about whether Chicago style pizza is pizza or casserole. My brother seems to think it's casserole. I seem to think I don't care. It's got the ingredients of pizza and it's good. So put it in my mouth. That's really all there is to say.
Cool. Yeah, it's pizza, and that is just a meme tropey sort of take to call it casserole. So
Yeah.
tell your brother to get off the internet and get a job.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's finally cutting his mullet off, so we're happy about that. I think we
I think
socially pressured him to do that for the wedding, so
Well, I've been on the other side of that argument this whole time. I think
shocking.
he's losing his power by cutting off his mullet. It is a righteous mullet. It is a God-given mullet. It's gonna be the opposite of him like leaving the Yankees. He's gonna get worse.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Well, there's not much worse he could get. So
there you go.
We've got some more generic Cardinal news to talk about. Just like we kind of predicted on last week's episode, TJ McFarland is back.
He signed a minor league contract with the AAA team. He is back in business.
Back. Yeah.
And I'm going to say, how about this right now, Nate? I'm going to make a $5 bet with you. If you're willing to take this bet, that he is a September call up this year.
I will take that bet for the sporting of it, but
yeah.
I think
I just won $5.
Yeah, I think it's a bad bet. Yeah. And then just the way the season is turning out right now, he's suddenly going to come up as like a relief ace.
Yeah.
And, win like the NLDS MVP or something stupid like that. Yeah. Him and Kramer Robertson are both going to be the September call-ups.
Hey, Kramer's been hitting.
Yeah. So, like we said from the very beginning, we want him to be good and we wish him success. So hopefully he is good for the Cardinals. There's a reason he got to the majors in the first place.
Absolutely. It is a weird, I wonder what him and his family think about the situation that just happened. We've been talking, we've had a different update the past 3 weeks, and it was dropped, officially DFA'd, re-signed. That has to be such a weird experience.
I wonder if there is any, what's the business communication of that between the Cardinals organization and McFarland, where they have to put him through waivers in order to get him off the 40-man, and that opens him up to other teams and other opportunities. But maybe they told him out of the gates, hey, if you make it through and you're out there, we'll re-sign you. We want you. We just need the roster spot right now. I don't know. I wonder if for him, if it was really that much of a whirlwind as far as coming back to the Cardinals,
right,
or if this was an expected outcome for him. I really don't know what that sort of communication looks like.
Yeah.
But we did get what feels like a long-awaited pitching. I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? Jake Woodford got a start. I guess that's what it was a horrible segue there. Jake Woodford got a start, went 5 1/3, and I think, maybe he's finally clawed himself out of whatever doghouse he was in for whatever reason, but I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think he kind of is what we expected him to be, in a way that I like you were kind of talking, I really don't understand what the holdup is. I feel like he's been nothing but effective the entire time he's been on the team this year. Obviously there is hesitation, but yeah, I mean, he went, what'd you say, 5 1/3, looked good. All the pitches were working. He was striking out people up in the zone. I actually only had 1 K. I guess my brain is tricking me a little on that one. But he looks solid. And I mean, with Dakota's performances recently, it really makes sense for him to take those starts, at least until Jack gets healthy or whatever else ends up happening. I don't know.
I would like to see him get
his job, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to see him get another shot at it. I think it's pretty obvious that, if Flaherty is back and if he's healthy, they're stretching him out. I think they want to give him a shot at some starts in September. Whether he is a playoff rotation guy or not, that will truly come down to the outcomes of these starts. But he's looked pretty good in his last few rehab starts. I think we'll probably see him in the majors soon, and I think that 5th spot is just waiting for him. But until that point, yeah, I think it should go to Woodford, and Dak should, I guess, go in the bullpen. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do with him after he's not in the rotation.
Yeah, I'm maybe we'll dive into this. We can speak a little more intelligently about it next episode. But the velo on
That's not going to
Dax
happen no
Sinker,
matter.
the velo on Dax Sinker is curious to me. It seems to be getting slower as the years gone on, and not that I think movement is his game, but obviously it's just a cause for worry. So be curious if maybe he could find something in the bullpen. Be curious if he goes down to AAA. Seems unlikely to happen just because he is potentially a valuable arm. But yeah, I don't know, disappointing. But let's go, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think we have. I guess we have to talk about it. Although it's we're several days past it at this point. But there was yet another Yadi controversy in his strange final year as a St. Louis Cardinal. He suddenly was placed on the restricted list. Everyone thinking, oh no, oh no, I hope everything's okay. Is this a continuation of whatever's been happening down in Puerto Rico that seems to have it seems to have had him distracted all season. And then it's pretty quickly revealed that he's going down there because the professional basketball team that he owns is playing in the championship.
What the
And
hell?
I'm so torn on this, man. Like, because, on a game per game basis, like he was going to have one of those days off anyway. So it's really
Yeah,
one game.
yeah,
And it's not like he's it's a crazy contribution over any sort of game, small amount of games. And like, hey, we all like PTO from our job too,
sure.
but I've never seen this in us in sports. And what a weird old for baseball terms, rich guy problem to have. Like, can you imagine being like a Brendan Donovan right now and being like, oh, you couldn't be here because the professional basketball team you own was in the championship?
Right.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I didn't get too worked up about it. A lot of people did.
Yeah.
That is strange.
I don't think I'm worked up about it. It's just like, what is happening here? That is
Yeah,
mostly where it's coming from. Is you had to fly back home to attend a championship for the basketball team that you own in your home country during a playoff run with the baseball team that you play on.
that you
Now,
are an employee of. Yeah,
yes. Now, everything you said is totally right on. They're in Arizona. That team is terrible. It's fine to get Knizner some starts. I would have loved to have seen Herrera get a start. Actually, I don't know why that
I
didn't happen, but
I
it didn't.
know. Yeah,
Obviously, there is something that they want him to work on, and they're just not comfortable with him calling big league games or being behind the
yeah,
plate or whatever it might be. So, did it really damage the Cardinals? No. Is Knizner having a better year than Cardinals? Arguably now, or than Yadi? Arguably, right? Like since the second half, I think he's been a better catcher. But he's still Yadi. He's still your field general. He's still all those things. It's just weird.
yeah.
And I think I think I would even care less if it wasn't his final year.
Right.
But man, he really seems to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out this
Yeah,
year.
that's the big thing that sticks out. Is just like he just keeps being not there, and so if
Yeah.
he'd been playing all season too, and I know he had an injury, but he was doing his rehab away from the team. Like he was late to spring training. He's just been like away a lot, and that just doesn't jive with the Yachty that we've all known for so
Yeah.
long, which is like the fierce competitor who will do anything to gain even like a percentage point
Yeah.
over the other team. But also, remember the Cardinals had to approve this. It's a restricted
Yeah.
list.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like this was all mutual, all in the up and up.
Yeah.
Like they could have said no, and probably would have said no if they really thought it was a problem. So, um,
Can
I
can
get,
I speculate
yeah.
wildly?
Uh,
Ooh.
if that's not what we're here to do, then what are we here to do,
All
Ben?
right. I want to start the conspiracy theory right now that Yadier is on the basketball team.
What do you mean? Like,
He is secretly their star center or something like that. And that's why he was gone for 2.5 months earlier. And that's why he had to go back for the championship, is because he is their best player.
so even though there's like footage of these games and box scores and,
Deep fakes. Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, this makes sense to me.
Is that worth interrupting you?
Yeah, it's good. That's
Okay.
good. I think
I thought you would enjoy that a
I
little
think
more,
you're
but we
right.
could.
He's
Okay.
probably I'm enjoying it right now. I think he is definitely the star center for his Puerto Rican basketball team.
All right.
I mean, apparently he's really, he feels a really strong personal connection to the city and to the
Because he's on
team
the
and
team. Of
yeah,
course he does.
of course. Um yeah, it's just strange. I don't know. And then
Yeah.
of course, we have the Nolan and Goldie thing from earlier in the season that like everyone's trying to tie this to that. And it's like that is such a different thing than what
Yeah.
is happening here. And I don't know. It is all some of those stranger storylines we've had as Cardinal fans in the mixed in the midst of an incredible run. Also,
Yeah.
so strange.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. That's what I say. Just keep winning.
Yep. Hang in there. I don't know. I was trying to think of other bad turns of phrase, but you broke my brain with Yadi is the center.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the last section. We have some things from the broader league that we want to talk about. So, Ben, why don't you kick us off and run us down some of these?
Yeah. I think we can just drive through these fairly quickly. Phillies placed Corey Knebel on the 60-day IL due to a tear in the shoulder capsule, which I didn't know was a body part, but he tore his. And that I think that'll be probably fairly relevant to Cardinals. The Phillies and the Cardinals are going to be in the playoff mix together. There are conversations around that. So, that is a huge loss for them. Sir Anthony Dominguez also went down. So the Phillies pitching not looking great right now. Luckily, they did trade for David Robertson, who will be a huge boon. But yeah, that happened. Moving
real
on,
quick, Sir Anthony, one of my favorite first names in baseball.
The fact that it's one name is incredible. Yeah, it's pretty good. And that guy throws like 100 miles an hour. He's fun.
Yeah.
Walker Buehler undergoes Tommy John surgery. It's his second one. Luckily for the Dodgers, they have Julio Urias and
Dustin May is back now.
Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin.
We keep talking about this stupid Dodgers.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Some better news for baseball in general. Artie Moreno, the current owner of the Angels, is exploring selling the team. And I think we could probably, based on the reporting that Jeff Passan was doing the other day, I think we can basically say that he is planning to sell the team.
I think it's like planning, assuming. I think it's basically the team is up for sale.
Yeah.
And as long as we get an appropriate buyer, it will happen. Because they've already hired like financial advisors for it. They've done all of these different steps to initiate the sale. So when they say planning on selling, I think they're just hedging a little bit just in case like they don't get an appropriate buyer. But as we know, owning professional sports teams is an incredibly lucrative thing. And so I think it's very, very likely that some other ding dong billionaire is going to buy the Angels. And
hopefully it's a Cohen who wants to win and does interesting things. Yeah.
Well, the Angels are so weird because, when you look around the Morenos are so weird because you can't say they weren't willing to pay for guys.
No.
They just had really strange priorities on who they pay and like what they target. I heard a theory not too long ago that basically the Morenos cared about like celebrity status for their baseball team more than they necessarily care about like team balance and structure. So that's why they would give these crazy contracts to a Pujols or a Josh Hamilton or even like a Syndergaard, who looked like a I think that was a pretty good signing, but he fits that mold of like if he becomes a star, he's huge and everyone already knows him, big name ID. You can think of the marketing that you could put around Thor. So but he never cared about just signing like or paying good money for boring, successful players.
Right.
He just wanted to pay for the celebrities. So it's weird, but they're always bad. So hopefully we want to see Trout in the playoffs. We want to see Ohtani in the playoffs. So hopefully,
and I mean, talk about those two players. Like, what does their future look like? Is Trout going to want to leave? He's obviously locked into a long-term contract. Shohei's contract is coming up here soon. Yeah, we'll see. Two obviously massively impactful players on a team that's about to be sold. We know what happened to Juan Soto in a similar situation.
If you can trade Juan Soto, you can trade Mike Trout. It just will depend on what they want to do.
Yeah. All right. Moving along. Elvis Andrus. I don't know if you paid attention to this saga, but the A's released him in a move that was pretty thinly veiled to block him from reaching his 550 plate appearances. Elvis Andrus has been one of the best players on the A's this year. He is now picked up by the White Sox in a move that I think makes sense with Tim Anderson being out. Elvis Andrus has by no means been an awesome player this year, but I think he was the fourth most productive player by Baseball Reference War before they just dropped him, and having a decent year. And the only reason I really bring this up is because I hope that Elvis files a grievance, because it is very clearly so. If he hits his 550 plate appearances with the A's, he would get a $15 million guarantee for 2023. He was on track to hit that. They drop him. Like I said, he had been productive. And by the fact that he was dropped and then picked up by another team, that is now null and void. So they essentially are taking $15 million away from him. Will he be able to get more in the offseason? I don't know. Probably not.
No, I wouldn't think
I
so.
wouldn't think so. So I just find that extra slimy. All credit to the A's for being as cutthroat as any team in baseball. But I will just say I will be watching this. I hope he files a grievance. And if he loses it, I don't know if there's any way that a player can win a grievance because it is so obvious. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't. Those plate appearance. It's the same thing with like some of the other incentives around like save amounts and pitching appearances. These things that the management of the team can very directly control.
right.
I think there is a little bit of a known risk in signing those types of contracts, and it's because of things like this where a team can decide that you will not get 550 plate appearances, even if you're playing well. So I would be surprised if there is a successful grievance because
Yeah.
that is the contract, and the team can make that decision. And so I
I
don't know,
I just
but
think you can argue that reasonably that he would have hit that had he not been dropped for seemingly no reason.
right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious,
Yeah.
right? Like it's very clear what's happening here, just from like a legal standpoint. Like that's the point of contracts, and those incentives like that are, I think, put in there for a reason too, for
Yeah.
both sides. So I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyways, I hate that kind of thing.
I
Moving
do
on.
too. Let me be clear. Like
Yeah.
I hate it. But I would just be very surprised if there's anything that can come from it other than it just
Yeah.
being what it is.
Next thing I want to talk about, O'Neal Cruz has been in the league for 5 seconds, and he now has the hardest hit ball in the Statcast era.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, this leaderboard is filled with Giancarlo Stanton, and O'Neal Cruz just edged him out 122.4 miles per hour. If you have not seen this hit, it is absolutely incredible. It would have gone out if it wasn't for that Clemente wall at the Pittsburgh in PNC Park. But the way that ball bounces off, I mean, it looked like it was shot out of a damn cannon.
Yeah.
Like it was absolutely incredible. I love O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah.
I'm happy he's in the Central. We get to watch him more. He's a nut. Just awesome.
Yeah, I hope he can put it together a little bit more because he's not really having a great season, but when he
No.
hits it, it's
Woo!
yeah, it's fireworks. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah. And the last thing I have on the list here is the 2023 schedule is out.
Yeah, that's always fun. I think the big thing that stood out to me right out of the gates is that the first of all, the Cardinals have a home opener at home on opening day, which it's been, I don't know how long it's been since that, but it feels like a long time. So that's a ton of fun, and it's against the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
So it's a talking about other birds special. Cardinals against Blue Jays at home, opening day of the season. I think I'm going to try to go.
Yeah.
Went to home opener this year, and it was a ton of fun. And I'd love to see Vlad and Bichette
Yeah.
and just the all-star team that is the Blue Jays. So really, really looking forward to that. And the next year's schedule has so many interleague games now that it's going into that new schedule style. So that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And
Every team playing every team.
yeah, which is fun. Cardinals are in Texas against the Rangers, which I don't think has happened since the 2011 World Series. I could be
Oh,
wrong on
yeah.
that, but if even if it has happened, like it's still just kind of fun,
Yeah.
And was looking at the end of the season. They have like 7 of the last 10 games or something like that are against the Brewers. So that should be
That's
fun.
exciting.
I
Yeah.
think I think the offseason could change maybe the Cubs trajectory for next year, but outside of that, I think we probably anticipate the competition in the NL Central next year being the Cardinals and the Brewers again. So having so many games at the end of the season should be a lot of fun. And it looks like a slightly more balanced schedule for the Cardinals. I don't think we will have the easiest second half in baseball next year, which is fine. I mean, it all shakes out ultimately, especially with every team playing every team. It should kind of balance, but it's fun. The series against the Rockies in Colorado is in April next year. So it's one of the first ones. So
it's going to be cold.
Yeah, I'm going to try to come out there for that.
All right.
I don't know. Any takeaways you had from the schedule?
No, I think it's fine. I think, I definitely value the in-division rivalry. It seems like that's still going to be a factor, just to a slightly lesser degree. I will say, to take, as a fan of baseball, capital B baseball, the sport or whatever, every fan base should get to watch Shohei Ohtani. Every fan base should get to watch Vladdy Jr., Wander Franco, Ronald Acuna, Mike Trout, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, all of these superstars. That part I really like. I think that's great that, like I said, every fan base gets the chance, at least for a 3-game or 4-game set. And it might be an away series, of course, but they get to watch the superstars. That's inherently good for the game. So I'm pro that.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of went back and forth on it a little bit, but I ultimately think it'll be more fun. And that's what we're here for, right?
I want to watch Shohei. Let's go. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So, all right. Well, lots going on. We're going to wrap up this episode this week. Instead of playing another dumb game, we are going to check in on a game that we've been kind of playing all season since before the season started, really, which we call Draft Day. Cue the music.
Oh yeah, I always forget about this. That's good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, as always, to associate sound producer Chris Phillips for that track. This is Draft Day. What we call it? Big Dogs and Kitty Cats edition.
Wow.
Or
Heroes and Hatchlings. Dumbass.
So if you're new to the show, preseason, Ben and I did a draft of Cardinal players, and we were able to pick 3 major league players, or 3 40-man players and 3 non 40-man players. We did it snake style. I picked one, Ben went first, Ben me, so on and so forth. And the challenge was to see at the end of the season, we would add up the Fangraphs WAR of all the players that we drafted, and whoever had the most at the end of the season wins. So it's been kind of nice to use this as sort of an update on some of the individual performances. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to run down each of our teams, and we'll talk about the Fangraphs WAR they had last time we checked in on this. We are now at 75% of the way through the season. So it seemed like a good time to check in on it. Last time we did it, we were around halfway through the season. I think it was sometime in July is when we looked at it last. So we'll start with Ben's team. He had the first overall pick, and he picked Paul Goldschmidt, which I think we can all agree was a pretty good pick.
Yeah, smart.
Yep, pretty obvious pick. He is currently on Fangraphs at a 6.5 Fangraphs score, which is incredible. That is
good.
That is a nearing MVP level season if he ended at 6.5, and we still have a month and a half to go. Last we checked in, he was at 4.6, so he's put up almost 2 WAR in the last 25% of the season, and just continues to be cornerstone of the Cardinals and a cornerstone of Ben's effort in this game. After that, you picked Tyler O'Neill, which has had a rough season, we all know, but the last 2 months or month and a half have really been the best that you've gotten from him. When we checked in last, he was at 0.1 F4. He's now at 0.6.
Yeah.
So it doesn't quite feel like it, but you got to remember he's also very good defensively. He's put up half a WAR in the last 40 games or so.
And I think he's coming on. Like, he hit a home run with Cubs, a screamer. I think Tyler's going to have a strong finish. I need him to have a strong finish. I'll caveat with that.
And we'll talk about it a little bit, but it's the second and third round picks that have really dictated how this game is going. After that, we have Harrison Bader. So I went back and listened to how we set up this game when we initially created it.
Yeah.
And what I said was, whoever earns the most, or we will track how much F-WAR they earn this season.
Yes.
At no point did I say as a St. Louis Cardinal. So you will continue to accrue the F-WAR, assuming that Bader comes back this year.
Let's go.
And you also have the other guy.
I know this one, maybe, yeah.
So Bader's at 1.5, which is what he was at last because he has not played since then. So still not nothing though. It's a good little add into your total. But next there's Johan Oviedo. So 2 of your 6 guys are no longer St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
And Oviedo actually went down. He was at 0.2 last we spoke. He's now at 0.1 and hasn't really pitched much since then, since being traded.
He's in the minors. He's at AAA with Pirates right now.
Yep. And then finally, Alec Burleson, savvy pick, but he has just not made it to the majors yet. Yeah. So your total is 10.5 F-WAR.
Let's go.
Your group of 6, which was really a group of 4, acquired 3 WAR in between the last time we did this and today.
Yeah, we'll take what we can get.
So now my team, after Ben took Goldschmidt, obviously I took Nolan Arenado. He is also at 6.5. Arenado and Goldie are tied. Really incredible. So he went up from 4.6 to 6.5. So he was slightly ahead of Goldie last time we did this, and they are now tied. Credit to what Goldie's been doing, as well as
Nolan's ridiculous defense.
Exactly. Yep. After that, I took Dylan Carlson.
Smart.
Very quietly approaching, will likely put up a 3 WAR season. He is at 2.3 right now, which is up from 1.7. Just steady. I think a move to center field is going to help those defensive metric, his WAR accrual there. And he's been looking a lot better at the plate recently. Obviously an up and down season offensively, but overall, I think he's looking better. After Carlson, I selected Adam Wainwright, who's also at 2.3 F-WAR. So he is up from 1.5. He continues to be rock solid and will pitch for another 10 years. And then I selected Nolan Gorman, who is now at 1 F-WAR. So
good pick.
Yeah. Congrats to him in his first season. And
he's just been looking better and better and better. It's been great.
Yeah. And then I have Juan Yepez, who is healthy now, but is blocked by Corey Dickerson.
He's hanging out with Burleson down there. Yeah.
He's at 0.2. So, better than nothing. And then Matt Liberatore was my final pick, who's at a cool 0.
Hey, that's up from last time. So
last time he was at negative 0.1. So it's an improvement, which puts my total, drum roll, at 12.3. So I've got you by a little bit less than 2 F-WAR. So
that's fine. Harry Bader's going to come back healthy. He's going to start stacking because he's going to poke him out of that short porch in New York and play great defense. And Tyler O'Neill is coming on. So I would say you are in the lead. The lead is fairly strong, but I got a lot of horsepower coming up.
It wouldn't take
chasing
much.
You down.
It wouldn't take much if I, if O'Neill can really turn it on. I think that's your ace up your sleeve. We're all hoping he really turns back
Yeah.
into what we had. I mean, there's not much more fun than when O'Neal is on top of his game.
Yes.
He's out there doing it for the boys.
For the boy. Yeah, the post-game interviews alone. Yeah.
Just out here putting out good at-bats, just trying to win it for the boys.
God.
I'm jacked out of my mind, and I run like the T1000, but
that was good.
I'm just trying to make my dad, Mr. Canada, proud.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I feel like I'm talking to Tyler.
Yeah, you are. Just like Yadi is secretly the center for his basketball team, I am actually Tyler O'Neal.
That was good. Mine was good. Yours was bad.
Agree to disagree.
All
right. Well, that'll do it for this week. Thank you all, as always, for joining. We always appreciate each and every one of you. Again, check out that Patreon, and we'll be back next week, as always, with another episode. And until then, go Cards.
Tell your friends. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Talking